Good evening, everyone, and welcome to District's 38 Masterclass on Youth Leadership Program. Our facilitator for this evening is a two-time distinguished Toastmaster, Meg Fosco. Meg has been a Toastmaster for over 20 years, serving in multiple club officer roles. Additionally, Meg has served in many District 38 officer and staff roles, including 3 years as an area director, winning District's 38 Area Director of the Year in 2007. And she has served 3 years as a division director. Meg is currently serving as the District 38 Youth Leadership Coordinator. Please help me welcome Meg Fosco. Meg, take it away.
Thank you, Anne, and welcome fellow Toastmasters from near and very far, all the way from Australia. It's great to have you all here this evening. You are here because you are interested or have been told to be interested in a youth leadership program, what it is, and how to develop one of your own. Tonight, I have a series of short slides that should answer all of the basic technical questions, and we'll review them. I have some questions that people have asked in advance of tonight's program. I think many of those questions may be answered by the slide presentation, but I will also be sharing my own experience. My home club of Bluebell Toastmasters has run a youth leadership program. We call it Junior Toastmasters for 30 years. I have not been involved with it for all 30 years, however, or even 20, but I have been involved. So I have a lot of hands-on experience that I can share with everyone. And Anne, if you would bring up the formal slide at your convenience. I'm so lucky to have Anne here to help me tonight with all the technical stuff. She is a Zoom goddess. I would volunteer her to anybody. The first slide is just a cover slide. What is youth leadership? But I can keep talking while we're working on that. The very first thing is more of a formal definition of youth leadership. When you go to Toastmasters International or you say, what is youth leadership program? It is an 8-week workshop. Each session runs from 1 to 2 hours. Most sessions, because we're working with young people. Oh, here we go. This is what we're going to cover. The description, which I started, the purpose of it, the curriculum, how to start your own, and how you benefit from it. So, Anne, next slide, please. There we go. I was saying it's an 8-week workshop. Each session's 1 to 2 hours. Usually they're done on Saturday mornings. Some might be done one evening a week after school, but most people run them on Saturdays because we're working with youth. Toastmasters official literature recommends ages 14 to 18. I put in parentheses there, flexible. For example, the program that my club works with, we work with children from ages 12 to 18. District 38 also has another program over on the New Jersey side. I'm in Pennsylvania. That's a much larger program, and I will get into more detail about them and the differences shortly. But they work with children ages 6 to 18, and they work with over 200 children, which is a lot. They have a huge organization set up to help with that program, and 3 different Toastmaster clubs partner as co-sponsors of it. Next slide, Anne, please. What is the purpose of a youth leadership program? It's what you might think. It's to develop youth communication and leadership skills through practical experience. Just like a regular Toastmasters meeting, the kids are giving speeches, being table topics masters, answering table topic questions, being Toastmaster. And that's how they learn. We help them run their own meetings by the end of the sessions. And ideally, they will also be getting a feel for how they communicate and what works best for them through this practice. And so you might say, I'd like to do this, but do I have to build my own curriculum? And I'm going to say yes and no. When you work with youth leadership, Toastmasters does provide a curriculum. I don't think I'll be able to, I'll show it later when we're done with the slides, but I wrote down the 2 books you would use, the Youth Leadership Coordinator Guide for you as a leader, and then the workbook for the kids. This is something new I have on the 3rd bullet point there about interpersonal communication kit. I called Toastmasters International myself just the other day because I had not seen this before, and I was having difficulty in their verbiage to distinguish, is this replacing the original youth leadership books, or is it something different? And this 3rd kit, number 701, is very different. This is a kit that's designed for a non-Toastmasters led youth program. Well, anybody here is a Toastmaster, you're going to want to work with or use as your guideline the Coordinator Guide 802 and Workbooks 805. Now, I did say yes and no to this idea of the curriculum because over the years, or especially for us at Bluebell, we have really refined what works, and so we have picked and we pick and choose a little bit about how much we want to cover in those 8 weeks, but we use the books as a guide. I also mentioned that the timing could be anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. We use the full 2 hours. I talk a little bit more about that when I share some of my personal experiences, but that gives you an idea. So you're not alone to develop everything by yourself. Another thing I would call to your attention is that these 2 guides, 802 and 805, do follow the legacy program. They are not compatible with Pathways. For those of you who've been around longer, you understand what I mean. They're similar in style to the Competent Communicator manuals that we used to use before Pathways became our educational program. In chatting with the fellow at TI International, I did mention that to him, and he said they are aware and it's something on their list of things to do, but that's not happening right now. So you could order numbers 802 and 805 with confidence, and I think that they're very easy to understand. But I did want to make everyone aware of that so that you're not surprised if you haven't seen these manuals or get confused about the communication kit, which is entirely different. And thank you. Okay. You have been tasked with, or you'd like to start a youth leadership program in your club, area, district, division, district. Here's a couple things, a couple bullet points that will apply to you no matter where you might be in the United States or elsewhere. Number 1, you as a Toastmaster or as a Toastmaster club cannot, see that in bold, cannot charge a fee for this program. You cannot benefit from it or cover expenses for the program. And the books, while they're not prohibitively expensive, depending on how many students you have, you need to be a club that has a good budget and can afford this. Or going to bullet point number 2, you're going to need to find a sponsor who might pick up the costs of the materials for the students. And an example of that would be my club, Bluebell. We run our program and have always run our program in a partnership with the 4-H club out of the Penn State Extension Program. And 4-H is, I believe, national in our country, but there's different places throughout the country where they have sets, and we sponsor with them. And what that does for us, which is very nice, is it provides us with bullet point number 3, a location. You will have to think about where you would run the program. Some might be able to get a sponsor that's a corporate sponsor that might allow you to use an office building or a conference room on a Saturday morning. Over in New Jersey, in District 38, they used to partner with ETS Corporation, and the last few years after COVID, they've been partnering with local grade school through the local school system to use a public school classroom on the weekends. But location is something you really need to think about, and how you're going to pay for things. So for us, we are lucky. We do have some costs with the books and etc., but the 4-H picks up some of that for us. Now, in our case, our students all belong to the 4-H, so yes, they are paying to belong to the 4-H, but this is a program that 4-H offers every year. We run our program on Saturdays, January and February of each year. So big things to think about, not always easy to accomplish, and that is a sponsor who might be able to provide you with a location, or at least would cover the cost of materials. Next, you'll need facilitators. Even if you run a fairly small program, say 12 to 20 kids, you need a couple of you, because no one wants to hear just one of us talk the entire time. We want to give the children a variety of styles. So we have a lead here in my club, and then there's 2 of us who also facilitate, and we work on the programs together every year. Something that we also do is we ask our club members to volunteer to come in for 1 week and give a speech that demonstrates a key of learning. We want the kids to write speeches on the following week. So it might be something like vocal variety, talking really low. We'll ask somebody to give a speech that demonstrates that, and we will be teaching some of that. And then the following week, some of the kids will give a speech that hopefully captures what we want them to learn with that. So you need to have a couple facilitators, bare minimum. The program in New Jersey that has over 200 students, they have, I think, almost 30 facilitators. This last bullet point will depend on where your state that you live in. This is for the United States. I don't know about outside of the United States, but it will depend on the state you live in and who you are partnering with. You may need clearances to work with children. What does that mean? Well, because we work with the Pennsylvania State 4-H, our main facilitators, not our guest speakers from the club, but the main facilitators, myself and our other 2 facilitators, every year have to take a mandatory report test. It's an online program that reviews how to spot various sorts of abuse or concerns, and how you handle that and who you report it to. Every 5 years, if you've moved in Pennsylvania, it's if you've changed addresses, you'll need an FBI clearance, but you at least have to you have to go to the state and get your criminal background check so that you can prove that you have not been convicted of a crime and that legally you are allowed to work with children. So I don't want that to put anybody off or frighten them. You may not need that if you're not working within a state established group. You might need it if you're working with a local school system to use their facilities, but that's a thing you will want to look into before you go too far down the road. I see Ann getting ready. She knows. Whenever you're ready, Ann. Okay. Why do you want to do this? How are you going to benefit? Well, I think everyone here probably knows that as you're getting closer and closer to earning the Distinguished Toastmaster designation, you have a choice near the end of either running a speechcraft program or working with youth leadership coordination. So yes, you do earn credit for your Distinguished Toastmaster program. Now, only one person in Toastmaster told me per year can earn that, but you can work through it. If you, for example, if you have 3 coordinators like we do, only one person can claim for the year. I'm not quite sure how New Jersey handles it, but you can, that may vary, and that's something you'll need to check with TI. I thought that was a little not quite clearly defined because you're putting in the work, depending on what you're doing, and you're putting in the work that gets you the credit for your DTM. And that's very important. But I think what became more important in how I benefited and how others that I've worked with and who have done programs like this have benefit is it was an absolute delight. I think I wrote here joy of seeing how the young people grow from week to week and how much they grow in just 8 short weeks. It's absolutely amazing. And as I've mentioned in this slide, the things they talk about. I mean, we know that as adults, sometimes that's what keeps us coming because we all enjoy hearing the stories that others in Toastmasters share, the things they speak about, the things we would never know or learn if we weren't in Toastmasters. So just last year alone, now remember, we're working with the 4-H club, which they do a lot of work with animals and farming and growing. One of our students is very into bees, 15 years old, walking encyclopedia about bees. And you think, well, bees, as long as they don't sting me and they make honey, that's cool. What else is there to say? Plenty. Traffic lights. We have a student who is a slightly, I guess the proper term might be on the spectrum, loves traffic lights. Gave 2 excellent speeches on traffic lights. Apparently, which I didn't know, at least in Pennsylvania, you can purchase old traffic lights when they're taken out of service. So we even brought one in. I can tell you that the LED lights they use today have their advantages. But if you live in a climate that gets snow, as we do, they're not so good because they don't throw heat to melt the snow. And so if you have a very heavy snowstorm, you can't see the lights where the old lights threw heat. So there's a lot of fun things. That PFAPA syndrome is a health issue that one of our students has. Lizards, music. We have a student that's definitely going to be president someday. We all just know it. He's 15 and he gives these speeches that are just amazing. Maybe if I'm a Toastmaster another 40 years, I could give the same. It's great to see, especially if you're not exposed to young people or not anymore or around them a lot. It's really great to see how they view the world and how what turns them on, what they're interested in. And the best part is, it is thrilling to see these kids come back year after year. We have one family, had 3 boys. The youngest son just graduated from the program last year. But everyone, and he was a woodworker. So you see, we're working up there. He would actually bring in tools and things he had made. It's just amazing. So it's really great to see the kids and the variety of things they're interested in. And thanks. So I thought I would ask, well, I would put a quote for myself, and I thought I would ask my coordinators why they have come back year after year to work this program, because usually there's great continuity with a program that's long running, and our facilitators come back year after year because they do enjoy it. Now, mind you, by March, after getting up early, you have Saturday morning for 8 Saturdays in a row, you think, okay, that's my last year. But then it's not your last year because you keep coming back like Uma Nuti does from Bluebell. And she loves watching the progress of our junior Toastmasters, as I've mentioned, and seeing them grow in just 8 weeks. And I liked it. She said it keeps her feeling young and energized and hopeful for our future. I think the next quote might be from Wa, yours truly. And it's true. I love getting to know the students. And I really look forward to the next week, what they were going to do next. You begin to have a relationship with them and the different things they like to talk about. I was really, of all the many, many things I've done at Toastmasters, and Anne can attest that I've been involved with many, many projects over the years. I have to say, this has been one of the most rewarding projects that I have been involved in for multiple years. And finally, my last quote here is from, we call her our boss, Joanne Wismer from my club. She is the head boss of it all. And she says every year it's her last year. And now she's on her 11th year. So she's 10 years complete leading what we call Junior Toastmasters. And she makes a great point. It's very different working with young people versus working with adults. I have to interject before finishing her quote. We always have to say the first week of class when we're doing introductions and things, besides the fact for the new ones that your parents made you come, what do you hope to get out of this and why are you here? But it is very different and they do progress. And that's why Joanne says many don't want to be here, but by the end, they've enjoyed their time. And when they speak, they do. They look to us for approval and acceptance. It warms Joanne's heart to see that, and it gets her passionate as well. And I second her last line that I think we get as much from the program as the kids do. And I will say it's funny because our young beekeeper, I never was quite sure throughout. He was always very dutiful and did his assignments, but I wasn't really sure if he really liked it because he was quiet. And then at graduation day, when the parents come, we have a graduation and the parents come to the last class and all the students are running the meeting completely. We have speakers, etc. And his parents said, we told him he just had to try it. He didn't have to stay if he didn't want to, but he absolutely loves it. He can't wait every week. I never would have gotten that from his face. But it was so exciting to know that he enjoyed it. I have a lot of hands-on experience with this. That's really the basics of it. The nutshell of how do you go about doing this, what's involved. But perhaps you have questions, and Anne, if anyone had questions for me, little details, something I went over too quickly or didn't touch and you were hoping I would, I'm open to that.
Marie?
Yeah, thanks, Meg. Meg, this information is very helpful. Have a question. Say, for example, you're doing this with a group of high school students, right? It's just high school students. Does it have to be on a Saturday? Like, for example, could it be maybe after school on a
Oh,
weekday?
it can.
Okay.
I hope I made that clear. It just seemed that for most people, Saturday seemed to work. But if you're working, and I saw there was somebody here, maybe that's you who mentioned they were going to be working with high school students. Well, you've already got your sponsor. I'm guessing you already have the school is supporting you with a location and facility and your needs. So you've got a lot of the legwork taken care of already. So it can be after school, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Naja, did I say your name properly? From District 25 has her hand up.
Yes, Miss Anna, and thank you so much, Miss Meg, for the wonderful introduction. I'm Najaf representing District 25, and this is my first time I'm going to lead the youth leadership plan. And I'm here with Miss Tammy herself. And my question is this: can you walk me through the first day, how the first day is going to happen? I'm kind of nervous for that.
That's an interesting thing because the book has a first day, but I think that everyone does their first day a little bit differently. So we are there early. Oh, that's the little things I don't think of. So if the program begins at 10, we're always there by a quarter of, for example, but not super early because we can't get into the facility. So those kind of things you rather juggle. And we usually, the parents will come the first day because they want to know who we are, who is working with their kids, especially, I should say, the parents of kids who are 12 and 13 and are just starting the program, our kids that have been repeating every year. And they know who we are because the 4-H sends out a bio of each of us so that they know what our background is and what credentials we bring to the program. So our first day, we get everyone in, we do a fun exercise. I don't want to quite call it table topics because we are going to do table topics, but we do a kind of a fun exercise to get those kids who don't know one another yet. And again, some are repeaters, so they do know each other, but we do a fun exercise for everyone to introduce themselves to each other. And then we begin instruction on table topics, what it is, how we go about it. Excuse me, I my cough, excuse me. Sorry about that. And then because we have a smaller group, we only have 20, we have the time set aside for each of them to do a table topic. And we are prepared with that. So we are technically the table topic masters the first week. But then we will also review how a Toastmaster meeting runs. And we will, before we close out, have the kids who have participated in previous years, as they know what's happening, they will sign up for their first speeches. We will also review, usually always, even if you're a student who's been with us before, we'll have them do the icebreaker, which is the same as what we do. So they won't be giving speeches the first week, but we get them talking and engaged through the table topics. But then they do assignments. So some of the kids will, not every kid speaks every week, but some of the kids will give their icebreakers. Someone will be table topics master, someone will be Toastmaster. Again, that's usually a student that's been with us a year or two already. And before they leave the first day, everyone has a speaking assignment for the following meeting. That's a little, not like step by step that maybe you're looking for, but that's a guide to what we do. So we do introductions, we teach table topics, and we review the Toastmaster meeting and process and what the roles are. And we have the kids who've been with us before take the tougher roles the following class. And each class after that, we're going to teach a certain specific skill. Like I said, it might be working with props. Our woodmaker fella, he never really needed a lesson in that. He was good with that, giving a speech with props. But we'll talk about vocal variety because some of the kids are so I don't know if you heard me say that, but that's, you're like, what did they say? So we have, some of them are just, yay, they're just out there, and others are just like looking down. So we talk a lot, explain. From the second week on, we try to have an adult Toastmaster give a demonstration of what we'll be looking for as we move forward so the kids can do that. Now, we have a pretty good staid Toastmaster club, but I would remind people you're working with children, so we want a speech that's appropriate for school-age kids, nothing too out there. Does that help at all?
Yes, it just took a little bit of nervousness out. Still feeling that.
Well, remember too, that even the kids that have, and maybe all your kids are new, I don't know, but because we have returning students, they're all a little nervous. They're just like us. I will tell everyone though, the thing that fascinates us consistently is adults often shy away from table topics. They drop something when it's time to pick the next person, they're looking down. Kids love table topics. So you rarely have, they're all like fighting to do table topics. So you won't have as much trouble with them. They like that. I see.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nimish, did I say your name right?
Yep, this is Nimish. Yep. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. So the question I had was related to what I'm looking to do is going to be with my Sunday school. And there's potentially going to be about 40, possibly 40 kids, but the thing of it is all over the Pittsburgh area. So we're looking to do it via Zoom because of the geographic location of everybody. Is that advisable to do via Zoom, or do you think it's, I mean, if to conduct the youth leadership program via Zoom, or is it better to have it in person? Um,
I'm going to show a little bias here and say I think it's better in person. I have, as many of us have, we had to run the program for 2 years via Zoom because of COVID. And because we had a smaller group, we were able to keep everybody on camera. And I think that's important because kids are just like us sometimes. If the camera's off, they're not engaged, it's harder. You can see them, they're doing that, they're not around, and they're not focused on what we're doing. The other thing that my question would be to you is, what is their age range? If they're within that same 12 to 14 to 18 range, that's at least one challenge. But if they're a wider age range, I would be thinking about breaking that up, which would be more work for you. But it can be done by Zoom, but your engagement is not as strong. And we had to, well, both in person but especially in Zoom, we had to come up with some codes of conduct, but that was definitely critical with the Zoom.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
we do give a certificate of completion at the end of the program for those who have attended. You must attend 7, because sometimes people do get sick, out of the 8 programs, and the kids want these for their school credits and things like that. So Zoom is tougher, but they're the generation that grew up with the computer. So as far as giving a speech or volunteering for table topics, they are engaged, but 40 kids, that's a lot to and you won't have the one-on-one connection. But I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying, if you're asking my preference, it would be better in person. And in fact, I would say with 40 kids, gosh, you need about probably 5 facilitators, because you
Yeah,
want to
these are
make
good.
sure, they're getting some one-on-one attention.
Right.
So
Yeah,
a
these are
lot of
going to
times,
be. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of times they stay afterwards. They do ask questions. I've never been a teacher. I mean, I've done corporate training, which is very different than working with kids. But I think what makes our program successful is the amount of one-on-one attention we can give them. But I'm sorry, you were going to ask another question?
Yeah, so it was related to what you're saying. The age group I'm looking towards to doing is going to be more 8th graders to from 8th grade to 12th grade. Focusing on that age group, because like you said, if I do younger kids, unfortunately, these younger kids, their attention span is not the greatest that I've witnessed. So having it toward that's what I was planning on doing, and because we're all in different areas of the city, my thinking was Zoom, but I think I like what you're saying, because I've seen that when we did Sunday school via Zoom, you could tell who's paying attention, who's not paying attention, and if they're just looking at your phones and things like that. So that makes
I mean,
sense.
it's tough too. We had to insist on cameras on,
Yeah.
things like that. And it gets, a little tricky with that, because it's sometimes tough to enforce. And then you've got most of the people, the kids doing as you've asked, and then you have some people not. So I didn't really mention that, but now that we're into that, there is, and certainly we have some available if people want to reach out, and others who want the program might. So there is a core list of expectations. Now, luckily for us, we've put these expectations together, and the 4-H makes that part of the program. So we kind of get a little leeway between us and the expectations. And the expectations include: you must attend, you must participate. By the end of the program, you must have done this, this and this, or you don't get your certificate of completion. So that there's some other things you need to think about. And
Thank you.
Rose and then Mary. Rose, you had
Hey,
your
hi,
hand up.
Pam.
Rose.
Hi, Meg. How are you?
Good.
Yes, I have like two questions. One, I think you answered, but in my case, you said around 40 participants, then you need 5 facilitators. So what is the rule of thumb? Say, for instance, if you have 20 students, is 2 enough?
I think with 22 is enough. At Bluebell, we use 3, but we
3?
have people who want to do it. But I think with 20, you could get by with 2.
Okay.
But then that's another thing, because we alternate, we work together, because every year, you know, our club's been doing this for a long time. We are constantly tweaking the program. Like the first year on Zoom with COVID, all things considered, it went really well, but we saw a lot of what went wrong. And then we had stricter guidelines, I say, the following year, which the 4-H supported us with and made sure that the parents were aware of. So even back in person, which it's ever so much more fun in person, but back in person, we're forever tweaking what's working now, what's not working. When we years ago, when we partnered with the 4-H, most of the students at 4-H were homeschooled students. And in Pennsylvania, I can't speak for the rest of the country, there are some mandates about programs and classes or other activities they have to do that gets them out with other kids. They can't just stay in their houses forever and a day. And that's partly why parents would choose a program like this for their children. But that's not the case so much anymore. Now we have a variety of people in the public school system, the parochial system, and homeschooled. But I kind of got myself off target with talking about the kids. Oh, the tweaking. But every year we still tweak the program. And I want to say to anyone who's doing this for the first time, it'll be fine. You know, we're adults and we've done this before, and the kids are ever so accepting, more so than you think. Every class has got one, you know, the too cool for school kid, but most of the kids are really good kids, and they're very accepting of you and forgiving of you if you're relating to them. So that's a long way of saying I think you could get by with 2 with 20 people, but we at Bluebell do use 3, and we rotate who's going to be responsible. We, the coordinators, who's responsible for each week.
Thank you.
Did that make sense?
Yes.
I get too involved with that.
Even though we're not allowed to charge, can our sponsors charge for the registration and then pay for the workbooks and the kit? Say my chapter doesn't have money and I want to run this program, but the sponsor can charge money, like the 4-H, they charge a registration fee for the students, I believe.
Yes, you have to. The 4-H reminds me of belonging to a YMCA.
Mhm.
There is a membership fee to belong to the 4-H. Now, and then there is a small fee for the class, because most of the kids, they're all in the 4-H, but they're involved in multiple classes throughout the year. I think that's kind of how we ended up with January, February, way before my time, because I guess there's not so much to do with the animals and farming and stuff in January, February. Yes, 4-H charges. The key is that we as Toastmasters and we as a club, we cannot profit off of this. And we're in the same position for everyone. I know Rose, her club is a community club like mine, and we're in the same district. So we're having enough trouble paying for where we meet. You know, we could never take on paying all the expenses for other things. But on the other hand, business sponsors like ETS never charged anything. They just, I'm thinking of that used to sponsor in our district. They did it because it was I guess a tax write-off, or because they wanted to, and because they have a lot of people involved with Toastmasters. So that depends on how many kids you have. And Rose, you could always reach out to Joanne, because we don't buy the books anymore. We put together more, and it's less expensive. We run off, and they all get a folder with their learnings and the things they want to learn every week. So it's a little less expensive for us. But yes, the sponsor can charge, but no way ever can we as Toastmasters profit.
Meg, could you repeat what you said? Because we kind of lost you a little bit. You run off of what? We didn't catch that part. We lost your voice.
Oh, I'm sorry. Give me the clue again. Give me the cue.
You
Oh.
don't purchase the books anymore. You built your program.
We put together folders, very old school, with the 3-ring. We have everything on. We put the program on paper where we can make copies. So instead of the book, because again, we have used the book as a guideline over the years, but we have tweaked the program and what we think are the most important items to cover in 8 weeks. And we prepare them a guideline. For example, this is what the meeting is. We do a worksheet every week. So when we say, Anne, you're going to give a speech next week, and Rose, you're going to be table topics master, and Vicky, you're going to be the general evaluator, then we send that all out to them, and we bring it, because they always forget, we send them to that via email, and then we have it in their books for that week so they know what's happening. Just like we would bring an agenda to the meeting. And that's what we do.
Okay, thank you. Mary.
That really addresses some of my questions. I'm in District 42. I've run this program quite a few times pre-COVID, and then we kind of fell apart during COVID. We weren't really sure how to do it, and there were some programs online, and I did one online program. So I'm back to doing an in-person program now. I remember we just kind of threw out the book by the time I stopped. I had been doing it pre-COVID, because the book was very heavy on parliamentary procedure and running a business meeting and having kids voted in, and they kind of didn't get into that, and it wasted a whole lot of time. I always kind of looked at it as, these kids are giving up their free time. Why would they come to this? This isn't fun. The thing they really liked, as you said, Meg, was table topics. They loved being table topic master. Why would you limit that to the person who was in this so-called elected role? So we've kind of thrown out the book, but have had some struggle to develop, I guess, a curriculum from the books. So we've used the Successful Club series and some of those topics to inform us as facilitators in terms of what to present. So long story short, we've come to a place of sort of developing a kind of curriculum. So I'm wondering if that's something that you've got that you could share with us.
Well, first I want to say I feel comfortable now to hear someone else the same thing. We did years ago the elections. We would do half the program, Mary, your president, and then we re-elect new officers for the second half of the program. But back in the day, that seemed to work. And that's what I meant about tweaking. As time went on, it didn't seem to work as well. And I agree with you, it took up time to do that. And of course, some kids are natural leaders, and they still have that opportunity because everyone has to have done certain roles by the end. Even in a large group, there's always participation. We tweaked it again this year. If you could, Ian can give you my contact information. I could get something to you. I'm going out of town. I'll be frank with everybody this weekend, and I'll be gone until the beginning of February, but I've been happy to get it to you in early February for anybody who needs something, if they would coordinate with Anne, and I can get it out. But we've done the same, and that's why I say the book is a good start. The book we more pattern off what we do is the Old Confident Communicator, because it does a nice job of hitting the basic speaking skills, like I keep stressing, like the icebreaker, then vocal variety. Oh, we also do the second one in Confident Communicator. Although the kids are in school, not everybody really grasps the opening, middle, and close concept. Even so, we hit that one pretty hard early on. In fact, I'm thinking that's the thing we teach the first week after tape, for the following week. So we've used more the Confident Communicator, and chosen ideas from that. I did format. I can't participate this year only until February because I'm out of town. But I did format what we were going to do this year because we tweaked it again. And we end with graduation with the old Persuade with Power. And the for the ones who are going to speak in front of the parents. So if you reach
One
out,
question.
thing.
I wondered if you actually made an agenda for each week.
We do. It's very similar. It's not timed though, like we would do for Toastmasters, for our meetings. But we have a very set pattern that they can expect. You know, we're going to come in. We're going to do. We, being the coordinators, are going to do a teaching portion. Then we're going to have a meeting, and that's when we turn it over to the kids and the Toastmaster. They run through a mini Toastmasters meeting every week. They know what to expect.
Perfect. I wanted to just speak to the fellow from District 25 about the first time. I just had a first meeting, and it was kind of interesting because I've done this exercise before where we just kind of have an introduction where they spend 2 or 3 minutes. They work in pairs and they spend 2 or 3 minutes interviewing each other. So we spend a couple minutes interviewing one, and then they switch around and interview the other. So the person they're introducing isn't themselves, it's the next person. And I've done that exercise and nobody did a thing. They didn't respond at all. But yesterday, the room was buzzing. So it was like they really engaged. And you just don't know what your group is going to be like. You just got to try it and see what flies. And if it doesn't fly, well, move on.
That is great advice, Mary, and it's true, because I'm thinking now of last year, the first one person could remember everything, and the other person's like, and this is Anne, and she likes frogs. I mean, I don't know. It's because 4-H. So Mary, that's a very good point, and that's what I mean about you're always tweaking and always adapting. Nothing asks you to adapt like this program does.
Becky, did you still have a question? You had your hand up earlier.
Yes, ma'am. You know, I'm just learning so much from this one. I'm sorry, madam.
Becky? Did you have a question? Oh, we lost her again. All right, go ahead, Naja.
My apologies. You know, I raised my hand and I saw you addressing me. I didn't mean to cut anybody off. My apologies.
It's okay. No problem.
No, back to the same point as Miss Mary was pointing out about the interviewing, allowing the kids during the first day to interview each other. I just want to get more perspective, you know, how this one happened. Are you telling them how to do it, or it's just more introductory process? If you don't mind, just want some details to learning more about the process.
Well, we give them, of course, they only have 3 minutes. So we give them a guideline, you know, we do tell them, Rose, you're going to interview Mary. You want to find out where Mary goes to school, what her favorite thing is to do at 4-H, what's her favorite color. We'll give them suggestions, and they don't have to answer every question like Rote, but we'll say, here are some of the questions you can ask. And then you're going to report back, Rose, on what you learned about Mary. And Mary, you will do the same with Rose. And it's not like school where, you know, what's 101 is 2, but we give them very clear guidelines. And I find though that after the first week, you don't need that so much. But again, they could talk from anything from her favorite color to she loves working with bees and always 1 or 2 will say, and I forgot the rest. And you just move on. I married and I forgot.
I just wanted to say,
I gave them had a question. Oh, go ahead. Who's that?
I gave them
Mary?
a little bit of guidance. I asked them to, if you need a question, it's like a person you admire and a goal. So, or a goal.
Tough. They're hard.
But it just kind of gave them some guidance, but they didn't need to use that question. And It just gave them something.
They just need something to get started. And if they're like us as too, some of us are chattier than others. But again, that's after the first week, it's not so hard.
Marie Maranki put a question in chat. She wanted to know if the book gets reviewed and updated on a regular basis. What book are you talking about, Marie?
Probably I don't think you can see if I put these up
Can you
here.
come off mute, Marie?
And the answer is no. If you mean these two books, no.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about because this was before COVID, I think a year or two before COVID. I did the ETS Youth Leadership Program, and it was probably the same. It probably went with the same format as what you're talking about. I was just wondering if the books get reviewed by anybody on a regular basis and make tweaks, or it sounds like you just kind of have to go with the flow of the way your group is, your group dynamic, and you kind of make adjustments as needed, right?
And yes, and that's what we've done always. I think it's a good starting point, but if you have nothing, it's not a bad way to start or get your hand. They're online. You can get a hand on the company communicator manual. Between the two, it gives you a good idea of how to begin a program. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, when I talked to TI the other day, these books, it's just on a list to do. Because they don't really mirror pathways or how TI is approaching education today. But so no, the answer is no. And that's why you'll hear someone like Mary, who's done a lot of programs, or myself say, we've tweaked along the way and we do it differently now because that was not what we want to do, what works. There's the other primary objective of this whole thing is to keep it simple enough so that the kids are actively speaking or evaluating or participating in the meeting each week. And that's like when Mary mentioned about the parliamentary procedure and all of those things. We want the kids to be talking, giving a speech, presenting, participating. And so we narrowed down the focus to what we being my club, for speaking from experience, on what we think are the most impactful skills for a young person starting out, which stuck in my head, which is not in any of these books. We do a week of interviewing because some of them are coming up to get their first jobs, and we don't make it like hard, like they're going to be the next CEO. We the coordinators will be the hiring manager at the Dairy Queen or the Burger King, things like that.
Yeah.
And we'll ask some questions like that. So we talk about interviewing skills, which is not in any of these books, but we do to that.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking about that, in terms of like, if you have high school kids, like the example you just gave, interviewing, that's very relevant to them. And that's coming up. And that's a skill that, even if it's just their first job, they're going to have to learn how to build no matter what they do. And I guess I don't know. I don't know about the younger kids, but I look at high school kids because there's just, there's certain skills that they need to have, and they're not taught in school, unfortunately. And, Toastmasters, I think, even just a youth leadership program would kind of be a good filler for them to maybe get a taste of some of those skills and maybe pick up some tools and techniques that they can use and build on.
That's always a popular week. And we do a demonstration that's really out there that even the kids say, oh, we would never do that. So we'll do a kind of a thing where I'll come like slurping on in and, and give really crazy answers. But then we will go through, if you're asked this, maybe you've not ever worked before. They want to know what your experience is. Here's how you can turn around what you've done with 4-H. Here's how you can use everything you've done to date to show that you're responsible and worth them taking a chance on. Absolutely. I think a week of interview skills is, and it's very popular with them too. They have fun with it. Very important. And that's not in any of the books, and or even in the company communicator manual. But that was something we started tweaking over time because they asked us about things like that.
Meg, thank you for sharing all that, because that leads to the question, what if I've never held or coordinated a youth leadership program and I have no idea where to start from? Is there something that you could share with the group, maybe afterwards, or to give them a sample of what you're talking about, of how you tweak the program to give them some ideas as to how to develop a curriculum? Because the book itself is just a guide, is what I figure. And you more or less have to come up with your own curriculum, but someone who has done this for years and knows what works with your particular group. But that's a nice sample size. Is there something that you could share with the group that might help them if they're interested in starting and never did it before?
Well, I think first off, you have to realize you have to plan out. If you want to do a program this March, you don't have enough time. You really have to plan out, even if you've got some of your ducks in a row with a sponsor, or if you don't need a sponsor or a location, you need to get those things squared away. You need to think about your target audience before you just say, let me run this. Because as I said, in New Jersey, I think someone here was at Marie who said she worked the ETS program. Theirs is huge. I can't even imagine how they must have changed the program to work with young kids. I've seen them at our district conference one year that each grade level gave a speech. It was pretty cool to see in conference years back. I only have what we do. And as I said, I'd be happy to talk with people or send a kind of an overview of what we do at Bluebell. But for what we do, maybe someone else does something different. I guess the whole answer in the end of this program is, although Toastmasters feels they have a guide, everybody's doing something a little different based on their target audience, the amount of time they have, and what they have found works. So trying to think through, and I know you want me to say, here's the book or here's the guideline how to go about it, but I could get back to people what we've done this year, how we ran each week. Now we're eight weeks, 7 weeks really, which is we're 7 weeks this year. We're doing something different because they're 4-H. Half the class we lose for one weekend in February for some special big thing that happens in Pennsylvania with 4-H. And we finally said, example of tweaking, why are we having this class? Because half the class misses it. And so we decided this year and worked with 4-H that we don't have a class that day. And we extended the timing on all the remaining 7 so that they're still getting the same amount of instruction time.
Okay.
But I think the bigger thing is to plan in advance for those other issues. That if you don't have a sponsor, set up, it's hard to do on your own. You need to get a partner. You could be the person that's running it, but you really need to have someone else throw in with you. And then I would recommend reaching out to myself, but also other people who've run programs around the country, and then see what has worked for all of us. What worked for Mary, although it sounds like Mary, really over the years, we've been on the same track with moving away from some things, moving towards some others. It's really an opportunity, I would say, to use the old competent communicator manual for what to teach. In all honesty, to me, the competent communicator manual from the legacy program sums it up nicely and gives material that the kids can work on.
Perfect. Naja, you had your hand raised. Coming to you. Do you still have
Miss
a question?
Ann, and I lowered my hand. I know we're on time, but I will be quick as I can. And this is question going to go for Tammy. If we want to incorporate a guest, if I want to invite a guest, how would the process work? Do I need to tell the parents in advance? Do I need to ask the speaker to select a specific subject? If you don't mind.
So Najaf, you're asking me?
Yep.
You want to ask a guest? I believe Meg mentioned that she brings in guest speakers. Is that what you mean? Yeah, I would just reach out to your fellow Toastmasters to see if one of them would be willing to step in and be an example for the students, right? And I know you know a lot of Toastmasters, Najaf.
We don't get permission from the 4-H to bring in a guest speaker, but I will say we are very conscious of, who our audience is and what our kids are and who we ask to come in. So they're never alone with them because there are charges. So we are always there with kids. I think Marie,
And
have
for
I had her hand
Jeff,
up?
his youth leadership program is going to be at a library. And the biggest concern with the library that we've had working with them is capacity. They are more than happy to allow us the space. However, capacity, right? They're very strict with that. And the rooms that they have, the capacity is 12, and it has to include the youth leadership coordinator. And then we, or at least I advise that they have one assistant, and then that leaves room for 10 students. And we tend to get 10 students. So the room is at 12. Therefore, I would say you'd have to really consider who your guest is going to be, and that they would actually be your helper or assistant for that day.
Yes, we don't have that
Thank you, Ms. Tammy.
challenge. So
Almost.
I can't speak to that.
Marie, Marenke, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, this isn't really a logistical question. I guess I'm thinking about this. I know like a year or so ago, I guess Toastmasters International, they have a collaboration or partnership with Rotary Club. And I don't know if Rotary Club has ever expressed interest in, you know, partnering with Toastmasters in, you know, I don't know quite what I want to say. In other words, like I know from Rotary clubs, they're heavily involved with schools and education. And, you know, this is just, I guess I'm just thinking, I'm trying to think out loud about this. This is something that I would think that the Rotary Club could maybe help Toastmasters like promote more widely, maybe work with school districts and schools to maybe have maybe to have like a more standardized curriculum. I mean, I guess I just, you know, I'm just thinking about like the bigger picture part of it, you know, because it seems like, you know, like I was involved with the ETS Youth Leadership Program, and ETS, they, you know, pretty much spearheaded that. They sponsored it. You know, a lot of the students were children of ETS employees, and it just, I don't know, I think of the Rotary Club and what they do and what they stand for. And I'm involved with the local Rotary Club along with Jeanette and Ann. This is something that I could see them, you know, this is something an activity I would see them probably wanting to get all over, but that's just me. That's just my perspective.
I think that what you have to do, and it's an excellent idea, but there are so many chapters of Rotary as well. I know at Bluebell, we did some very preliminary partnering, but it was all before COVID, trying to partner on a project. I think that's an excellent idea for people who might want a sponsor or need connections, because the Rotary is very connected with local business. It would be great to reach out to a Rotary Club, perhaps arrange to speak at one of their luncheons and explain the project and see if they could get behind it. I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. Mark also, but they don't anymore right now because they don't have a coordinator. Mark over here in West Point in Pennsylvania, also ran a program and gave the sponsor and the support and paid for everything. Although it was open to more than just Merck children, it was open to any local children that up to what they could hold. I think the long-term thing is, and we face this at Bluebell, it's similar to our challenge as clubs with officer succession, is that eventually people do burn out. And that's why, in a way, we've always had 3 coordinators, because someone's always been the one there the longest. So in our case, it's Joanne. That's why we call her the lead. And then the others, so that there's someone to pass the baton to. And as the tweaking goes on, it's not like now we're going to leave and Ann's going to come in and go, what do I do with this? It's really for us as well, hands-on experience that makes it. Now, if you've not done a program before and you're creating it from scratch, you're going to learn a lot. We were lucky because all 3 of us inherited it over time, the program with 4-H, because in fact, and if I was telling our district director, two new students last year who are back again this year. When they came in, their mother told me that she had attended this same program sponsored with Bluebell and 4-H when she was a teenager. And she remembered the facilitator who was a member of our club for a long time, has since passed away. So we benefit from that ongoing knowledge. To start it up new is different. Over there, and Z, I can't remember his last name, he goes by Z, that runs a program over there now in New Jersey. It's a lot of work getting 20, 30 coordinators and teachers. We had a long phone conversation, and he's struggling now. The ETS isn't there to get sponsors to cover all that. So it seems like I harp on that as more than the part with the children, because I think the actual teaching in the curriculum for the children, once you have the other things, everything falls into place. It's just learning how to, for me, learning how to interact with a kid. I tend to treat them all like just small adults. So I don't know. I don't have child psychiatry courses or anything. But I think Rotary Club's a great idea. I never wish I'd have thought of it. That's an excellent idea to try to partner with a Rotary. There are so many that if one local one doesn't, in our area, I shouldn't say that. We live here in District 38 in a very heavily populated area. So we have a lot of clubs. If one Rotary Club doesn't want to work with you, the one down the road probably would. But thank you, Marie. That's a great idea.
Rose, you have a question?
Yes, I want to do this program project for my DTM credit. So what is the process involved? Do I send out, is there a form for me to fill out and send it out to whoever to give them the heads up that I'm doing this program? And do I need approval? What is the process?
No, I don't think you need any approval. I certainly didn't. The process is when you complete it, you have to let them know at TI and send in your information and tell them about the program of what you did. It's not like a formal letter or form to fill out, if I can remember correctly, but I may be off on that. Maybe somebody else knows better. I'll throw that out to everybody else.
Rose, that is part of your DTM requirement, and therefore you would need a evaluation. You need to do a speech before you do it, explaining your plan. All right, that you're going to do this as a DTM. Any DTM project requires, one, that you decide your plan, what you're going to do. You give a speech at your club beforehand, telling them what you plan to do for your DTM. You need a DTM committee, guidance committee, that you need to meet with. And as you're working through this, you're going to have to do a presentation after the year is up on this program, 3 months, whatever it is, and then do a presentation of your DTM project. And once you complete two paths in pathways, then you can write to Toastmasters and tell them to activate the DTM project in Basecamp, and you would get further instructions on that. But you can reach out to me on the side, and we can go into further details of a discussion about it.
As far as I remember, though, at the end when I was finished with it, I just, as part of the form I was filling out for the DTM, there's a list of things you've had to have done. I just supplied the information.
Yeah.
They didn't have a special form for youth leadership.
No, you need to send it in, but there's a lot to it. You need to do the speech before, you have to treat it as a DTM project, you need a committee, you sit down with them, the whole thing.
And normally
Naja, you had your hand raised?
I would just finish up on that and just say, normally your committee would include your other facilitators, and maybe if you're working with an outside sponsor, someone from your sponsor.
Not necessarily, but anyway. Naja?
Yes, it's in regard to the same conversation about the DTM. It's not about submitting the DTM application. How to notify the TI that I, for example, completed this program. Do I need to reach out to them, or my club sponsor or somebody from the club that's sponsoring me, they need to reach out to TI? How that process works?
There's a form that you have to fill out, and you list everything. There's still that form that you need to fill, and you tell them what you did. You tell them if you're a club coach, you were a club sponsor, what your DTM project was and the date that you completed it, it's still a form that you need to complete when you submit for your DTM. You have to meet all the requirements on that form. Tammy?
Hey, I just wanted to comment about on the youth leadership program when you do complete it. Of course, you have worked with your VPE, right? Or a club, your home club has been your sponsor. So they are aware that you have completed the program. When it comes time to submit your DTM application, right, you would mark that you completed the youth leadership program as that particular leadership project, right? Because you could do a youth leadership program, speech craft, or be a sponsor for a club, right? So you pick one of those three. And when you fill out the application, you're noting that you completed a youth leadership program. Now, and I think what you're speaking of, Anne, is the DTM project. And
Right.
so you could certainly, use a youth leadership program to be your DTM project. And I think follow those steps of a committee and the speech before and the speech after. But as far as the youth leadership program, I don't think that a speech is required, at least from what I've understood, or a speech is required afterwards. And you don't have to call TI and let them know that you completed it. So that was my understanding. I just wanted to share what I had learned about youth leadership.
That's
Yes,
correct, Tommy. Thank you for that clarification. That's right. I was talking about it as if you want to do it for a DTM project. You could actually do it for both ways, DTM project and completing that one requirement. That's correct. Thank you, Tammy, for that clarification, because I think I caused confusion. So thank you. Karen?
I just wanted to clarify that when we're saying DTM project, some people might call it the HPL, High Performance Leadership Project, which is the same thing. I've done the youth leadership as just youth leadership, and then I did a separate DTM project. This year, for my second DTM, I'm going to do the youth leadership and combine it to be my HPL. I think that's where the confusion happens when a person is asking about the requirements and what do I have to fill out. You got two ways you can go about it. It's up to that person to decide. Do you want to combine it and kill two birds with one stone? Or did you already have an HPL completed or planned and do this just as a separate addition for your DTM? Did that make more sense now, Rose?
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Tammy. Meg, did you want to add anything to that conversation?
No, I just recall that some of the paths are looking for an HPL project and some are not. And that is one change from the old ways. Everything always required a DTM, always required an HPL project, but now it seems to depend on what paths you're working in.
Yeah, there is a DTM project itself. Yeah,
before distinguishing between the two. So that's very different. And I'm not sure, but I don't remember now. It's been a while. If you can use one for both. I'm not the person to ask about that because it's been a while for me. I can't remember all the details. And two is enough. I'm not going down that path again. So I hope I've been able to share some of my personal experiences with youth leadership, as well as some of the challenges. For example, the New Jersey folks, when I talked with them this year, they were envious in a way that we have a sponsor, but I'm amazed that they have such a large undertaking, because 200 to our 20 is nothing. But the key, I will just leave it with the key is logistics are important, but once you've got them squared away, it's putting the best plan together that keeps the young people participating and doing their speeches and contributing to the class. And you do need, if you're going to offer some sort of certificate of completion, they seem to like that. We always do a graduation program. Then you do need to have some rules of engagement and conduct. They don't have to be difficult, but you do want to look at attendance, things like that, and see what works for you.
Karen, do you still have your hand up? Anything else? Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions for Meg, our facilitator? Well, it's 7:49. Let's do a round robin. Tammy, did you get what you wanted out of the session tonight?
I certainly did. I enjoyed hearing definitely District 38's approach to youth leadership, and maybe as noted, I am in District 25. I think I've taken away some nice tips and information, and because I want to get the word out about youth leadership in District 25, hoping it'll be growing like it is in District 38. And then I have heard that Pennsylvania, right, they've got great youth leadership. So hopefully we can mimic that someday.
Fantastic. Rose, did you get what you wanted out of tonight's session? Did you learn?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much, Anne and Meg, for the information. I wanted to attend this so I can have a separate project for my DTM, but also to serve my AAPI community. And so this is something that can open up to the underserved Chinatown community. So I will be going to Chinatown to run this program. And
Awesome.
yes, it's
Awesome.
it's called Black and Gold. So that means
Terrific.
African Americans with Asians. And so hopefully I can start this up and maybe continue this with other Toastmasters in the Philadelphia clubs as well. Thank you.
Fantastic, Rose. How about Ann Melanson? Ann, your
Hi.
thoughts?
Yes, it's been very enlightening. I have not attended or been a part of a youth leadership program. They haven't been done in my area, so this was all new information. And some of it reminded me of what is coming up with Speechcraft. So I was excited to hear that. So it's almost a natural progression. So it was very
Terrific.
good. Thank you so much.
Terrific. Thank you, Ann. Najee?
I just want to say thank you, Mag, Annie, and District 38 for organizing such an informative session for all of us from all around. Of course, as a first timer on this one, it's going to be my first time doing this on this Sunday. Now I have more questions. Just kidding. No more questions. Of course, this information, this session helped me and even brought me one step closer what I want to do and how I envision to lead the youth. And of course, I'm very motivated to not only just to lead, but also connect with our youth nowadays, because when we grow up, we just become a different people. But when we start talking, communicating, of course, we start understanding about culture and our youth and what they're thinking, which is very crucial for us in our own development as well. So very excited for this journey and see what brings up. I'm very, very excited. See, I can hold that torch. Thank you.
Fantastic. Karen, your thoughts?
Great session. Thank you for all the information. I think it's wonderful for those, especially who have not experienced doing this yet. I envy that you have a location that you can do it ongoing year after year. Perhaps in the future, District 25, we can reach out to someone, maybe a YMCA or something that has a youth program that can sponsor this to be yearly. And that way, when we have other Toastmasters who want to do this, we've got the spot for you to come to, instead of them trying to figure out, well, where should I go and who should I try to reach? Should I try this library? Should I try this school? We'll already have a place. So it would be nice if we can develop something like that. And maybe it's out there and I just don't know about it.
Thank you, Karen.
That was
It makes a
great.
big difference because then you can have succession.
Mhm.
That's why my club's program has lasted so long, because we have a partner and a place, and those big questions are handled for us.
Yes.
And we talk it up constantly
Yes.
around at our club.
You have students that can come back. I have a lot of kids that after the 8 weeks, they want to say, well, when can we do this again? So you have that answer for them. I don't yet.
That's out there. I hope
Yeah.
it's inspired other people to look.
Mhm.
Marie?
Yeah, thank you, Meg and Ann. This is very informative, very helpful. I've been thinking about this a lot, getting more involved with the community. Like I said, I did the ETS one, but I think it'd be nice to have something more in my local community. I think it's something that's needed, and I think it would be appreciated. So more to think about for sure, more planning, more thoughts, and I'll probably be tapping into probably both of you ladies as I continue to think about this more.
Oh, no,
But it's
Meg's the
fun,
expert.
right?
Meg's
It's-
the expert. I know nothing about, I learned a lot tonight myself. I do not operate in that world at all. So,
Okay, all right, then
But
Meg.
you, Marie, and the lady that just spoke from 25, in a way, this idea, you have a little tablet to work with, but you really have a blank slate to create.
Yeah.
And you have a format within that, but
Mhm.
you can really begin a dynasty.
Yeah.
I will.
And
I
Vicki
don't think
Wilson?
enough districts don't really tackle it from a district perspective. Ours doesn't really either. We're just getting more into that now. I mean, both of our programs have run a long time, but we just go along independently, and people don't even realize we have them. So go
Yeah.
for it.
Thank you.
Excuse
I
me a
will.
minute, if I may. Vicky's going to have to leave, so I'm asking Mary, Ari, and Patty, and Danielle to come on so I can get a full shot of everybody that was here tonight before she has to leave. I would really appreciate that. And then I'll have everybody that was in attendance, and that would be just awesome. Daniela, are you able to come on? I don't know if she's there. So I'm going to take everybody that's here before Vicky has to leave. And if Danielle comes on, I can always snip her by herself, can't I? So let's do this on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Give me your best smiles. There we go. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Vicky said, thank you for the session. She learned a lot today. She can't speak because she's in the cafe. Thank you very much for coming, Vicky. Larry, what do you think of the session? And give some feedback to Meg.
Oh no,
Please.
it was a great session. I learned all. I haven't done this program before, but there is a member in my club that's interested in sponsoring. So I came to know what is involved, and I have a lot of ideas. So see if we can actually pull it through. Thank you.
Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Danielle,
Yes,
I
I'm
could get you
back.
by yourself. Go ahead. Your response to Meg, what you learned tonight?
Well, I learned a lot. This is going to be the first time I'll be leading a youth leadership program for the local high school. And I got some good information about how the leading a youth leadership program will help me for DTM and the steps I need to take, to prepare for that. And I also loved all the tips that were shared, especially the recommendation to use the Competent Communicator manual in addition to the Youth Leadership Guide. I am from District 25, so Tammy is the lead over there, and I'm going to be facilitating, like just being an assistant for the first youth leadership program that is kicking off at the local library. This is for middle school students. But the high school student program is going to launch. It's going to be much later, probably in March of this year. So I will have a chance to just shadow the first team. So looking forward to doing. Thank you again for a very good session.
Last but not least, Mary Schoendorfer.
Yeah, I have been working a bit to develop a more of a district-wide view of this program. So it's interesting to hear how you're doing that, Meg, how I guess looking at sustainability of the program. Right now, we are needing more facilitators and people who are really committed to being a facilitator this year and next year and the year after that. So it's good to hear how you're, I guess, developing that. We're also developing tools to make it easier for people to want to choose to be facilitators, and also just organization to partner with. So really great ideas. Shadowing is a fabulous idea. Go for it. Good for you. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Meg.
I want to give Meg a chance to have the last few words, but for now, I want everybody to come off mute and really, she did a fantastic job tonight in educating everybody on youth leadership by sharing her personal stories and her knowledge about the youth leadership program. She is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to it. I am so grateful that she volunteered to do this. So please, let's hear it up for Meg Fosco, DTM. I really appreciate it, Meg, so much. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with your fellow Toastmasters. And you have the last words.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you all who participated. If you're going to go down this path, throw yourself into it wholeheartedly and give it your heart, because the kids will love you for it.